Good evening, everyone. My name is Celeste Lacabra. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to go through, we're going to unbox and review every single Vinegar Syndrome title for the month of August. I am a subscriber for Vinegar Syndrome, and so I receive all of the titles, except for the VSAs, which I don't have here. But for the Vinegar Syndrome proper titles, I finally finished watching everything, including most, if not all, the supplements. So we're going to go through and do a full unboxing, review the films, and talk about the releases themselves, and I can then recommend which ones I think are actually worth purchasing at full price for non-subscribers. So here's the stack of stuff to talk about today. We got a 4K, 2 Blu-rays, and a box set. So pretty good lineup in terms of value, but let's talk about the actual films. Now, if you watched my video last month, you'll see that I enjoyed everything that I received except for the Jess Franco double pack, which I hated, and I actually already successfully sold that. So I made my money back on that one. But we'll get into it, but overall, I liked this slate of films less than last month's. So let's talk about it. Let's go start with the 4K. This is the Incredible Melting Man. So there's your slip. There's the back artwork with my fingerprints on it. And then here's the original theatrical poster, which I actually really love. And here's the back with the special features. There's your Blu-ray and your 4K with your disc art. I was really excited to watch this. It seemed like a really schlocky kind of B horror venture, and I actually did really enjoy it. Like, this is probably my favorite of the stack of films that we're going to talk about today. The supplements are really fun and interesting. The director talks a lot about how much he doesn't like the final product while also defending how it's actually pretty good the whole time. He's doing one of those numbers where he really blames the studio for interfering and cutting around and adding stuff that he didn't consent to, which is totally understandable. But, you know, it's funny. He's just kind of like, look, we're not watching Citizen Kane here. Like, you know, it's just supposed to be a fun, schlocky, goopy-ass movie, which it is, and it should be, right? But essentially, this is about a man who takes a trip to... He's a part of mankind's first ever venture to the rings of Saturn, and it's actually very similar in its premise to The Incredible Shrinking Man, in that he takes on an overdose of radiation poisoning, and it has very obvious physical effects. And he literally just kind of starts melting. You get what you pay for when you go into a film called The Incredible Melting Man, because that's exactly what it is. There's a lot of really nasty sequences in this. I gotta say, the star of the show is the makeup work, obviously. Like, the makeup is incredible. The dude does an amazing job. Let's see his name, actually. Rick Baker. The special effects artist was Rick Baker. He does a really good interview on this as well, where he talks about the process of doing the special effects, and he talks about how difficult it was achieving these effects with the limited amount of time and budget that they were afforded. It seems as though they were given maybe like half of the time that they would need to actually do these effects right, and he's actually not super happy with the final product. He thinks that they look just really goopy as opposed to actually melting. I'm not entirely sure what he had in mind in terms of the final product, because I think that what we see in the film is actually quite good. So, I mean, there's not a lot of thematic density to this one, other than just kind of a vague anti-nuclear war, maybe, or anti-radiation message. It's an excuse to watch a dude melt around and walk around like that, you know? The performances aren't amazing or anything, but the guy playing the Melting Man does a good job, just kind of, you know, like kind of like a Boris Karloff Frankenstein's monster sort of thing, where he doesn't really say much. He just kind of shuffles around looking creepy. There's a few special effects sequences in this that are particularly memorable and just really amazing and fun to watch. One in particular, it involves a beheading and falling down a waterfall. And when the head explodes, man, it looks sick as shit. It looks crazy. So I watched some of the audio commentary. I didn't watch the whole thing, but the actual interview that William Sachs gives is not particularly enlightening. He kind of just talks about his career writ large for a long time instead of really honing in on this specific film. But the audio commentary was fun, and the bits of context that he does provide in the interview are good. Again, he seems to be playing defense a lot on this, which is like understandable, but also like, I don't know, man. Like clearly there's an audience for it, and clearly people like it, so you know, it's okay. It's okay. I love the slipcover artwork, actually. Yeah, take a look at this gross ass looking dude. Sick as fuck. So I recommend this release. In terms of the film, I give it like a 6 out of 10, I think, and in the release, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. I think it's a very good release. And the transfer itself, let's talk about the transfer. It looks beautiful. It looks stunning. Like there are several, especially nighttime sequences, that just look incredible. And I don't think this film can possibly look any better than it does now. It probably looks better than it did in theaters. So if you're a fan of this film or you're interested in this film, I would recommend this one. It's a lot of fun and the transfer is really great, and the special features are definitely worth diving into. Okay, so let's talk about this next one. So if you watched my in one of my previous videos, I honestly can't remember which one, I talk about what is coming out, what was going to be coming out in this box, and I mentioned one title in particular that I was absolutely dreading watching. If you've seen the video, you know what I'm talking about, and if you're familiar with what's in this box, you probably know what I'm about to pull, but it's The Birds 2, Land's End. So let's do a quick unboxing. There's your slipcover with the embossed text. It's beautiful artwork, really. There's that one. There's the back. More great artwork. There's that one. There's this terrible original poster here, which I have, you know, displayed for posterity, because I always like to flip the original cover art with slipcovers. There's a back with special features. There's that guy. Here's your Blu-ray with the reversible being the slip artwork. All right, I'm gonna bury the lead and spoil it right now. I liked this. I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth, because what people described this to me in ways that they made it sound like it was comparable to a war crime or like actual physical torture. But I gotta be honest, I thought it was good. I thought it was good. I liked it. So this was a made-for-TV movie. It was made for Showtime, I think. Yeah. And in the special features, some of the people were talking about how they were disappointed that it didn't end up being a theatrical run, which is understandable. But it is shot on film, and it looks really nice. The transfer looks great. It's got a very cinematic, filmic look to it, which I appreciate. It doesn't look like, you know, like a shot on video VHS rip or some kind of other not ideal source element, you know what I mean? But what is interesting is that it is in 1:3:3:1 or 4:3, the television more square aspect ratio, as opposed to it's not in widescreen. Because when it started and it was in that aspect ratio, I thought to myself, is this because they wanted to maybe pay homage to the original and do like an old school ratio? But then I realized it was a TV film, and I was like, oh, okay, so that makes sense. So I imagine source elements exist for a fuller widescreen picture, but I can't imagine it was shot with the intention of keeping any of that. I'm sure it was cropped immediately, and it wouldn't make a lot of sense to put that full image there. Now, again, I know a lot of people really hate this and were really dreading receiving this in the mail, or are just upset that it's being released at all. But okay, here's the thing. I saw The Birds for the first time like last month or the month before it, maybe. So I don't have this like intense nostalgia for it or anything. It doesn't feel like this is attacking something deeply personal to me or anything like that. But in that same vein, like if they did a sequel to Possession and it was horrible, even though I've seen that film for the first time recently, that would piss me off and that would be hard to sit through, you know? I don't think I could give it a pass just because like, oh, I don't have that much of an attachment to the film. I only just saw it. It's like, what's one of the best films I've ever seen? And it's so meaningful, and to butcher its legacy like that, you know? So I understand why people are upset about this. I just don't agree that that is what is actually the content of this film. I actually think it's a pretty solid sequel. A few times they were saying if it hadn't been called The Birds 2, if it had just been called Land's End, if it had just been marketed as an animal attacks movie, it could have been like spun as one big homage to Hitchcock, as opposed to trying to get in on his legacy or something. And I think people would have liked it. It would have been considered a fine, you know, made-for-TV B film. But it's got all this baggage attached to it, and now it's a whole thing. Tippi Hedren is in it, not playing the same character. Some people find that confusing, but whatever. I don't think it's that weird. Like, she's a very minor character in the film. And, you know, actors play different characters all the time. It's not that weird to me. It's just kind of like a fun Easter egg, like, cameo sort of thing, you know? So I thought that was neat. So in terms of the film itself, it's kind of the same premise as The Birds, just like but it's a family instead of one girl who shows up to this island for like a summer vacation. They've like rented a summer home or whatever. And they quickly find that birds are up to some no good, shady shit, and it gets really dangerous. But there's also like a really kind of compelling and surprisingly well done family drama angle to it. Like, the husband and wife are clearly under a lot of tensions and in a really rough part of their relationship, and there's a third character that's introduced that kind of complicates things and is a really good kind of sleazy character that I thought contributed a lot. The child actors are really great too. The two little girls do a great job. There's a really cute dog in it who has a really great role and contributes a lot to the film itself. His name is Scout in the film. Don't know the name of the real dog, but it's kind of cheesy and it's not amazing, but I think my expectations were on the floor and I got like a pretty decent film. So I don't know. My chief complaints would be that towards the end they sneak in some, let's say, more digital effects, because in the supplements they're saying it's not CGI. It's some kind of other trick that doesn't look right. It doesn't look real, and some of the birds dying look really bad. But I think they said 90% of the birds on screen are real birds, and you can tell, like, it looks good. My main complaint is with the ending. I won't spoil it, but the ending is highly unsatisfying and doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's nothing compared to the ending of the original, which I think is chilling and really great. But overall, this was my second favorite release of this stack, and I will be keeping this one. I actually liked it, and I could see myself revisiting it, especially with this audio commentary, because I haven't had a chance to listen to that one yet. So if you decide to purchase this, go into it with a grain of salt. I am in the steep minority here. Most people are just straight up offended by its existence, but I think it's a pretty fine sort of B film, made by competent directors and like real actors, and it's not just a cash grab. I think they did try. So there's a 54-minute documentary on the making of that Vinegar Syndrome produced called Don't Remake Hitchcock Movies, which I actually really enjoyed. There was a lot of really great information in this. They get one of the child actors, now that she's grown up, to do a pretty extensive interview on it, and I really enjoyed her interview. She just had nothing but great things to say about the whole experience, and it was like a really formative, fun thing that she got to do as a child. She just seemed really happy to be talking about it, and I enjoyed watching that. The production assistant, Craig Edwards, also is featured in this a lot, and he talks a lot about it, and he kind of defends it a lot, and he makes a point that I think is good, which is that, like, even if you don't like the film, the fact that it's been so completely disowned and tried to be forgotten is really unfortunate. Like, I think he said it got a VHS, like a small run VHS copy back in the day, and that's it. It's never seen home video after that, and Vinegar Syndrome finally put it out in a nice release on Blu-ray with supplements. You know, say what you want about it, but there's nothing like heinous about this. It's not like a exercise in racism or something. Like, I think it deserves to exist and to be accessible for people who like it. Oh, the composer of the film, Ron Ramin, does an incredible interview about his thought process and his experience writing the score for the film. He acknowledges pretty much up front that the original doesn't actually have a musical score, and Bernard Herrmann is credited, but he didn't actually write the score or perform one at all because there isn't one. He was just consulted as a sound designer for all the different birds, and like Hitchcock used like an analog machine to kind of create a soundtrack without instruments, which I always thought was so cool. But he understands the difficult position that this puts him in, where the original creators didn't think that this story should have a soundtrack, and yet he's been asked to do this. But I think he took a really interesting approach to it. He talks about how all the birds are really in the higher register in their noises, so he decided to use only instruments in the lower registers so that it would kind of complement and balance those things out. Just a really fascinating interview from a really intelligent person who cares a lot about his craft, so I really enjoyed that. There was a locations tour with the production assistant. That was okay. I didn't get a ton out of that, but it's there. It's fine. So yeah, I would give this film a 6 out of 10 as well. It'd probably be my second favorite in terms of the actual films, but in terms of the overall release, this is actually my favorite one of the stack. I think the supplements are excellent and a lot of fun to watch, and the transfer looks really good, and I'm just glad that they did it, honestly. So enter if you dare, but I recommend this one. All right, the rest of this stuff, unfortunately, I don't recommend, so I'll just say that up front, but none of it is terrible. These next two sets that I'm about to talk about, I am glad that they exist, and I'm glad that I watched them in really nice quality here, but I don't want them in my collection. I'm going to be selling them, and I just didn't care for the films. They didn't do it for me, and the supplements are pretty bare bones and not super enlightening, so there's just not a lot of reason for me to keep this stuff. But without further ado, let's talk about the first one. So this is a double feature. It's Hot Snake and Guns and Guts. These are not by the same director as I kind of thought they were when I received this, but they are kind of from the same movement. They're both Mexican westerns that were created in the 70s, and they have a very similar look and feel to them. So they definitely make sense as a double feature. But yeah, so there's your slip. There's the cover art on the disc. I think this is the reversible because I wanted to have the different colors. Yeah. And then here's your disc. It's all on one disc. The films are not particularly long, and there is only one supplement between the two of them, and it's an interview with the son of the director of Guns and Guts. It's a fine interview. It's not particularly enlightening, but I'm glad that it was on there just to give some kind of context to what we were seeing. And yeah, I enjoyed that. And if you have the set, I would definitely recommend watching it. But let's talk about the films. So Hot Snake is this kind of bizarre, like supernatural revenge Western. It's kind of about like a bounty hunter searching for this one guy who had wronged him in the past. And then there's this element of like magic and kind of esoteric spiritualism to it, where the person that's being hunted is consulting like a fortune teller, like a religious sort of fortune teller, and gets a prophecy. There's some cool sequences in it, I will say that. There's some pretty cool like macabre imagery in it, and I was on board for like the first 30 minutes or so until I kind of realized that that's kind of it, that in terms of what it has to offer. It really just plods around and meanders for a while to the point where I kind of stopped caring what's going to happen or what is happening. Avery fell asleep, but B stayed up to watch it with me, and at the end I had to ask them, I was like, is this what happened? Is this what it was implying? And they had to clarify it for me. But that just kind of goes to show you that I really kind of checked out after a while. It just didn't grab me like I was hoping it would. They didn't care for it either, so they didn't watch the next one with me. I will say that for Hot Snake, there is a lot of animal cruelty in this. There are just extended sequences of dudes shooting snakes, like for real. And then there's sequences of him gutting a snake. I didn't actually watch it. I looked away. I don't need to see that shit. But if that's a sensitive thing for you, as it should be aware of that. So I'm not opposed to releasing films with that kind of content. I understand that that's how it was presented. That's what the artist wanted, and like the damage is done essentially. But what I would like is what was done on the Cannibal Holocaust release, where there's fair warning, you're very aware of what you're getting into, and there's an alternate version where you don't have to watch that shit. So I think that is what Blu-ray companies kind of owe people if they're going to be putting out this kind of content, to be completely honest with you. So that was disappointing that there was no warning at all, and that just kind of happened, but that's Hot Snake. I think I gave it a 5. It's okay. It's not for me. And then Guns and Guts, I liked this one less. I think I also gave it a 5. I don't have much to say about it because there's not much that happens at all. I'm struggling to remember much of anything happening in this film. It really just plods on and meanders with nothing really to grab onto other than like a couple scenes of violence and nudity that are like titillating, I guess. I guess that's the idea, is to just give you something to be excited about on the screen. People really hyped up this big shootout that happens at the end. I guess it's okay, but like it's nothing compared to like the Wild Bunch or something like that. And by the time we get there, I'm just like so ready for it to be over that I just don't care. I don't know. So I actually think I gave this one a 4 out of 10. I'd have to cross-reference with my Letterboxd, and you can if you want. It's in the description, but I'm pretty sure I gave Hot Snake a 5 and Guns and Guts a 4. Again, I don't regret watching these. I don't think that these shouldn't have been released. I am glad that we're highlighting Mexican filmmakers and underseen films from that region. There's just not a ton of films from Mexico I've seen, period, honestly. So it was good to fill in a blind spot a little bit there. But unfortunately, the films themselves just didn't do it for me. So this was the one I was the most excited about, and I ended up being pretty disappointed. So there's that one. And finally, let's talk about the big one. This is Forgotten GIALLI, Volume 5. It contains, well, let's open it up. There's the inside of your box. Oh. I will say I love this box. I think the artwork is stunning on this thing. Like, especially this front cover with this little embossed eyeball. It's honestly like tempting me to keep it on its own. Just this artwork is so good, but yeah. We have White Dress for MARIALE. There's that. There's that. And there's that. There's no reversible on this, but there's this cool ass spiderweb artwork. I guess you could reverse that if you want, but and then we have Tropic of Cancer. Let's back of that one. And there's your pseudo reversible art. And there's 9 Guests for a Crime. And there you go. So let's talk about these in order. I'm looking at the time counter running on my phone right now, and I should probably wrap this up a bit because I've been talking for a long time, but we'll see how fast we can do this. So first, White Dress for MARIALE. This one had potential, I think. It opens with a really interesting, kind of shocking scene, and it has a really cool kind of gothic mansion setting, and there's a really cool crypt in it with creepy dead shit and just all sorts of macabre gothic imagery. But the novelty of that wears off pretty fast, and this is a common theme I'm noticing with the films in this box, is that a lot of these, or in this whole package, is that a lot of the films just sort of go on with not much happening or not much to care about. There's this really weird, like, blasphemous sort of orgy parodying the Last Supper. Now, I know that sounds like the coolest shit ever, as I've just described it to you, but I don't know. There's something about the style of this. Maybe it's the filmmaking or the costuming or the colors or something that just, when we get out of the crypt, which I really liked, it doesn't click with me. Like, it's a cool idea, and I was kind of like excited when it started. I was like, oh, this is interesting. It just kind of goes on for a while, and it's not really clear what the purpose of it is. And I mean, in terms of the plot, this is pretty standard, like, giallo stuff. I don't know, there's nothing too interesting about it. So I give this one a 4. It's my least favorite of the 3. I just didn't get anything out of it, really. Again, I'll say the same thing I did for that last set, for this entire set. I don't regret watching any of this, and I'm not upset that Vinegar Syndrome put this out, because I think it deserves to be seen and to exist. But personally, they didn't do it for me, is all I'm saying. So all 3 of these films have like a couple interviews with like people who were involved in the making, whether it be the director or a star. This one has 2 actually, with the director and the lead actress. And then all 3 of them have audio essays by Rachel Nisbet. I want to give a shout out to her for actually doing this and doing a pretty good job of compiling audio essays, like 20-minute audio essays, like for each of these films that are just so obscure. There's not a lot about them. My only complaint is that her accent makes it kind of difficult for me to hear what she's saying, and the audio quality wasn't that great. So I had a hard time understanding a lot of the things she was saying, and I really, really, really would have appreciated a subtitle track. Vinegar Syndrome is usually very good about that, but sometimes with these audio essays, they don't do it, which is weird to me because, like, they must be reading off of a script, right? So it's already written out for you. It's an essay. So that would have been appreciated. The interview with the director is interesting. It's called Forget This Movie, which is funny given the Forgotten GIALLI set, but he just straight up doesn't like it, and he's like, look, I'm not really proud of this one. I don't consider it to be a part of my oeuvre, as it were. I did my best. I changed the script quite a bit because I thought it was horrendous when I got it, but at the end of the day, I'm not very proud of it. I'm proud of the work that other people did on it, but I don't consider it one of my films. So I guess that was kind of validating, in that the director doesn't even like it, but I don't know. I saw some good reviews of this online, so if it sounds like your jam, if you're really into the giallo genre, you probably want this set, honestly, because these are some interesting films. I feel like I'm repeating myself, so let's kind of blast through these. The next one is entitled Tropic of Cancer. This one was really interesting, but I still didn't like it. Anyway, it's set in Haiti, which is pretty unique for a giallo film. I don't know, there's some interesting comments here about race and about sexuality that are kind of compelling. There's a really cool kind of trippy drug sequence with like tons of nudity, like tons of dicks and tons of tits out. It's pretty fun. I don't know, part of this feels also like exploitative. Like it's a borderline Mondo film. We're kind of watching like these weird, crazy rituals that the Haitians are performing. And there's more animal cruelty in this, by the way, without any warning. But they slaughter a bull in this thing, or they sacrifice a bull. So be aware of that. I don't know. Again, like there's cool images to hook onto, but the story overall, I just didn't care. So I will say that the interview with the director on this is really interesting. He has a couple questionable comments in it, but he tries to kind of, I guess, justify this creation as an exercise in anti-racism, and he talks about his experiences in Haiti. So that was actually really fascinating. I was more interested by that interview than I was the film itself. So there's that one. And the last one is 9 Guests for a Crime. Oh, I gave that one a 5, by the way, 5 out of 10. This one I gave a 6 out of 10. It's actually the only one in the set that I actually liked and would consider keeping, but it's just not worth what the set is worth, you know, monetarily, just to keep this one film that I just kind of liked. This one is set on like a island beachfront sort of deal. You have these kind of rich assholes that have like committed a murder and are now just treating poor people like dirt, and I don't know, there's some interesting social commentary in here somewhere. But oh, one thing I wanted to say. This one actually did have some really interesting kills. Like some really bloody, creative kills. So I don't know, I kind of like that one a little bit more the more I've had time to think about it, but I just remember being bored in the moment, so there's that. Back to this one. There are also some interesting kills in this one, but really what I liked about it was just the vibes, the atmosphere, the cinematography of this kind of beautiful Italian beachfront, and everybody's just wearing like little to no clothing, and they're just kind of hanging out and having sex with each other just when they feel like it. It's just kind of a vibe, you know? Like the women in this are just wearing these beautiful flowy garments that are just entirely see-through, and that's just how I'm trying to be, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to be beautiful and lascivious and flowy in beauty, you know? But yeah, I don't know. I liked the aesthetic of this, but again, I was kind of sold on it at first. And then by the end, the runtime really starts to wear on me, and I'm like, that was okay. I don't know. I don't think I ever need to see it again, but I would recommend checking that one out if you can. So that's the video. We'll do this again next month when I receive my package and get the chance to watch everything in it. I think I should get that one out faster because I don't think there's a box set coming in that one. But in any case, yeah, please let me know if you've seen any of these films and what you think of them. Please let me know if this was helpful to you, because these videos are a lot of work, and it'd be nice to know that it's helping somebody, you know? So that's it for me. There's links in the description for my Letterboxd, Rate Your Music, and Instagram accounts if you'd like to up our level of intimacy. Please like the video to help the algorithm bestow its mighty gifts upon me. We're really, really close to 200 subscribers, so that would be awesome if you're not subscribed. And that's it. Until next time. Hail Vinegar Syndrome. Hail GIALLI. Hail Satan.